This one's going to be me, Rob, and Zoran, and we're going to talk to you about the twin tech earthquakes of 2016, okay? So every January, all the business leaders of the world gather in Davos, and they talk about, you know, what's happening this year. This is a quote from Davos this January. So this trend that Pierre is talking about in Wolfgang Digital, we believe this accelerated in 2016. And there were two seismic events in 2016 that we believe is going to reshape work, reshape life, and reshape society in the very near future. So the first of those seismic events was this. For the first time in the history of Wall Street, there was an all-tech top 5. So what that means is the 5 largest companies in the States, and ergo the world, by market cap, were all technology companies. We had Apple, Google, Microsoft, Facebook, and Amazon. Okay, so normally on that list, you've got a power company, you've got Exxon, you've got a bank, you've got a financial company, Berkshire Hathaway would often be there. You might have a property company, you'd have a traditional retailer like Walmart, all gone, all tech. So there's so much we could infer from this, but I want to focus on 2 things. So the first one is what this illustrates is the world's most valuable commodity is not oil, it's not money, property. The world's most valuable commodity is now your attention, okay? So think about that. Think about those top 5 companies. There is now a global attention marketplace. Apple is the company that invented the devices which created this global attention marketplace. Google and Facebook, also in the top 5, are the 2 biggest sales houses of attention in this global attention marketplace. What does this global attention marketplace look like? It looks like this dude and his cat times 3.5 billion. Okay? Half the people on planet Earth are now reachable by marketers. What an opportunity. Like we've never seen anything like this before. So what? You know, what does this mean to you? What does this mean to people in business? So a really prescient essay by Silicon Valley VC Mark Anderson back in 2011 had the title, "Software is Eating the World." And you know, I think Wall Street has verified this hypothesis now last year. The market valuations demonstrate that's correct. One of the very scary things Mark said in this essay was every company needs to become a software company, okay? So essentially, what we're learning here is in order not just to thrive, but to survive in business going forward, tech needs to be a very central part of what we do. And this is scary, like hands up in the room who can code. Okay, so we probably got 10% of the people in the room. So what's been presented to the most senior business leaders in the world now is in order for your organization to live, to survive, you're going to have to embrace this skill you know nothing about. You've never done it before. And this is, your mission is to survive, is to embrace this. So that's a very scary thing for people to do. So what we've been doing in Wolfgang over the last year and a bit is we've had a secret project. It's not secret now, we're telling you all about it. But we've been working on secret project Cyborg. So our whole philosophy on technology is that we're not scared. We don't think the machine is going to replace our roles. We think if you're working in an industry where you're striving to be the best, not the cheapest, if you're striving to be the best results will come from the combination of humans and machine. So that's our thinking. So we're training our digital marketers in code so they can develop their own little bits of tech to sit on top of Google's tech, to sit on top of Facebook's advertising platform and just supersize the results. So with that in mind, I'm delighted to welcome Rob to the stage, and he's going to talk you through a few case studies of how we've been doing that.
Thanks, Al. Hello, everybody. Hello, 360 camera. I'm going to take you through our secret project Cyborg and specifically look at 3 examples, 3 ways we've been using it for our clients and also for ourselves in order to kind of increase the power of the digital marketing campaigns we're already doing. So the 3 examples I'm going to take you through, and the first one is looking at the optimization data that you do, so the optimization power that you do from one campaign and trying to spread that out to all of your other campaigns to save yourself a bit of time there. Second example I'm going to look at is really looking at using data that you already have from your own website and integrating that with your digital marketing campaigns to increase the power of what you're doing online. And the third example I'm going to look at is trying to measure what you're doing offline, online. So trying to attribute a return on investment to your channels like your radio and maybe your TV or print advertising as well. So some of you may have seen in the news about 2-3 months ago now, This Google got into a little bit of trouble because a very small fraction of the ads which were being shown on the Google Display Network were coming up on these kind of poor quality websites on the Google Display Network, where next to extremist content, the likes of Breitbart, for example, it's a very small number of ads which were served on the Google Display Network. But the issue was that in some cases it was public money funding these ads. So Google have taken a lot of steps in order to make managing where your ads show a lot easier and a lot more effective. But we were kind of surprised when this story broke, because it was something that we've known for a while. Like, one of the brilliant things about the Google Display Network is that it's the biggest network of websites in the whole world, and there's always going to be a couple of poor quality websites which slip through the net. So we take a couple of actions. We built up a number of placement blacklists that we don't let our clients' ads show on. We do manual placement optimizations, where we literally manually check each individual URL to make sure that it's okay and that we don't mind our ads showing up there. But we've also used an AdWords script to look at this. So what this script does is, you can see the top line there, the TLDs. We were able to define a number of top-level domains that we know tend to be kind of poor quality websites, the likes of your .downloads and your .xxx's. Not that anyone here would have ever been to a website like that. But by using this script, we can kind of proactively and at scale just cut out all of those websites and make sure that none of our clients' ads are showing up in any of these dodgy placements. Second example I'm going to take you through is one you might have heard us talk about before. We're a big fan of this script, and it solves a problem that exists for any e-commerce retailer, really. You could have the greatest Google AdWords campaign in the world with these beautiful ads, lovely ad extensions brought to a brilliant landing page. But if the user gets to the page and your product's out of stock, it's a terrible experience, and they're just not going to come back. And Al spoke about how attention is a really valuable commodity, and you're just going to lose that person's attention. They're not going to come back. So we ran this script in particular for one of our clients, McIlhenny's, who took home one of the Landies Al spoke about earlier. And they've got over 350 brands, everything from 1880 Club all the way down to Zila. So their kind of stock levels are coming in. They've got new brands coming in all the time. Everything's constantly rotating. And so it's really hard to stay on top of it and make sure that at every minute, every day, we're not sending anyone to a landing page where the products are going to be out of stock. So we use an AdWords script again. This script basically looks for instances of the phrase out of stock on all of the landing pages from our ads. And if it finds it on any of those landing pages, it'll automatically pause the ad so we can spend that budget in other areas. And by implementing this script, we're able to boost the first click assisted revenue, which came from these generic brand campaigns, by 10 times. So that's 10x assisted revenue driven by a very simple switch of just making sure we were using our budget in the right areas. So the third example I'm going to take you through is really kind of our search for the holy grail with digital marketing. And for us, like the holy grail is really trying to measure what we're doing offline and the impact that's having, and attribute a return on investment to that, so we can say we spent this and this is how much we returned, as we're all well used to doing online. Before I go any further, I just got to say this example is brought to you by the letter R. R is a programming language used by data scientists in order to create really robust projections and forecasts that we can then use to work out things like measuring offline performance online. So how does it work? So we using R, we can create models, forecasting models. You can see here, this blue line here is the observed or the actual performance. The kind of shaded green area is the range of expected performance we'd expect to see if there was no external factors affecting our campaigns. But you can see here we have the dotted line for event. That is an external factor. In this case, it's a radio advertising campaign. So you can see that after the radio advertising campaign starts, the actual performance of our online campaigns starts to go out beyond the expected range that we forecasted. And by using a Holt-Winter triple exponential smoothing function, which I love saying in every presentation that I possibly can, we can turn that last graph into this graph. And what this graph basically is it's the incremental performance driven by the event, which in this case is the radio advertising. And we can hold this to a really high statistical confidence interval of 95%, which is actually what the FDA use in the US to test new pharmaceuticals. And we can say, okay, to a statistically significant level, we're actually able to measure that there was a 19% boost in online revenue on the back of that radio ad. So we can then go back to the client and we can say, this is how much you spent on your radio, This is how much that return online, this is your return on investment, and give a really, really clear picture as to how those offline channels have performed. So I'm going to pass you back to Al now, who's going to take you through the second tech earthquake of 2016. Thanks a million.
Thanks very much, Rob. So the second of our twin tech earthquakes of 2016 is this. 2016 was the year that artificial intelligence, machine learning, reached an inflection point. It finally became functional, or you could say that the singularity occurred. So a couple of examples that illustrate this. Number one, Google's AI beat the Go world champion. So Go is an ancient Chinese game. It's said to be a lot more complex than chess, one of the most complex games out there. The sequence of moves that the AI used to beat the world champion had never been seen before. And the vanquished champion thought these moves were so beautiful, he actually cried. And then, and this is the bit that I love, then next time he went out to play Go, he started making moves he'd never used before to go on and improve his play. So that hypothesis we made a little while ago was, the greatest performance comes from the combination of human and machine. I think that illustrates that point nicely. Another case from 2016 is Google Translate gains 10 years progress overnight. So you're all familiar with it. It's been the butt of many jokes over the years for bad translation. Something happened in the first half of 2016. Overnight, they turned on artificial intelligence, or more accurately, they turned on machine learning. And that night, Google Translate doubled the progress it had made since its inception 10 years ago. So consider the implications on this for an industry like the translations industry. What does that mean for them? What does that mean for people who want translation as well? So you might say, okay, Alan, these are very Google-focused examples of AI, and IBM have been doing really interesting things with machine learning for 2 decades. I believe Google are best positioned of any company to really own machine learning. Let me explain why. Anybody familiar with Kevin Kelly? Kevin Kelly is one of my technology heroes. He writes brilliant books. He's a couple of super TED Talks. He tells a story in his book, The Inevitable. He's back at a party in Silicon Valley back in 2002, and he's talking to the Google guys. And at this stage, Google has literally just put ads on the search engine. And Kevin's skeptical, believe it or not. Is there ads on a search engine? Is there really going to be a business in that? And the Google guys respond that we're not actually building a search engine business. We're really building an artificial intelligence business. And when I read this, my mind exploded and I got it. Lots of great businesses have a secret plan. For example, McDonald's, everybody thinks it's a fast food restaurant. It's a property company that uses burgers and chips to acquire prime real estate all over the world. So when I read this, I was there, I've got it. This is Google's secret plan. So Google's stated mission is to organize the world's information, make it universally accessible. Google's secret mission is to monitor the world's interactions with the world's information. That's how machine learning learns. Okay, think about it right now. Google sits between humanity and all the information of humanity. Billions of searches every hour. And every time someone conducts a search, comes to a bit of information, interacts with it, Google's getting smarter. Powerful stuff. So just like we stated in 2017, the world's most valuable commodity is now your attention. We believe by 2020, the world's most valuable commodity will be intelligence. Okay, so let's talk about this a little bit. Let's explore this. So we believe we're on the cusp of a societal revolution. So what is a societal revolution? It's essentially a moment in which humanity figures out how to increase output. So if we jump back to the Industrial Revolution, prior to the Industrial Revolution, power was all human power or beast power. And essentially I don't know if we invented it or we discovered it, but artificial power became a thing. And once we had artificial power, manufacturing emerged, and all of a sudden we could build things and output dramatically increased, okay? So that's artificial power. Over the last century, the service economy has become, really come to the fore. And you can pump all the power into a translation agency. You can put the lights on as bright as this, and you can have massive screens. Doesn't increase output, okay? However, if you can pump intelligence into a translations agency, artificial intelligence, just like the artificial power replaced human grunt, artificial intelligence can replace human education. You can dramatically increase output. And that's where we are. So another quote from Davos back at the beginning of the year. So I'm delighted to welcome Zoran to the stage, And Zoran's going to talk to you about the AI arms race and the battle between good and evil at the heart of it.
Thank you all. So I'm going to show you 3 examples of how machine learning can be both a force for good in the world, how it can increase convenience in our lives even more, but also how it can be potentially dangerous. So the first example is of IBM Watson, and specifically their health app. So this is an app that doctors can use to make their medical decisions a bit more accurate, bit better. So there's been a famous example of a 60-year-old patient who didn't react well to the treatment. So they were really afraid that they misdiagnosed her. So they said, sure, let's see what Watson can do. Let's give Watson a try. So what Watson did is promptly, it went through millions of cancer research papers, went through all the genetic data of the patient, went through all the medical history, diagnosed the patient with a really rare form of leukemia, recommended the treatment that ultimately saved the patient's life, and he did all that in 10 minutes. So when Al is saying about increased output of intelligence, this is exactly what it means. So all that in 10 minutes. The second example is that of convenience. So we know that Amazon is all about delivering products for cheaper and sooner as well. So back in 2012, they patented their delivery system that today is responsible for 1 or 2 day deliveries that some segment of their customers enjoy, especially in US. So what they do, they look at all the historic data, all the purchase history of their users, and they actually predict how many new J.K. Rowling's books, how many new iPhones or drones are going to be purchased from each area of United States. And what they do, they preemptively package those products and ship them to those areas, to the nearest distribution center. So by the time you decide to order, that product is already on its way to you. So if you ever hear about someone getting the product a few hours after they ordered, this is exactly because of this, because that product was already in the truck going to that person's neighborhood. And finally, we have probably the most famous example lately of how machine learning can be potentially dangerous. And it's an example of a company called Cambridge Analytica coming out after US presidential elections and actually saying that they had a role to play. We later found out that they had a role to play in Brexit as well. So what they said is we had a great impact on results using big data to micro-target and analyze individuals for these purposes. So we don't actually know if their impact was really profound or not. However, we know the underlying principle behind their methodology, and it's really fascinating. So it's invented by Michal Koshinsky, a psychometrician from Stanford University, that developed an app that will look at your Facebook likes and will actually get your personality profile based on the big 5 or the ocean profile. And it's really, really accurate. So 70 likes will actually get your personality profile better than your friends can get it. 150 likes better than your parents can get it. 300 likes can get a better profile than your partner. And if it has more, it can actually go as far as knowing you better than you know yourself. Alexander Nix, CEO of Cambridge Analytica, actually came on stage and explained how they used it in elections. So he gave an example of highly neurotic and conscientious person, and said this is a person that needs a fear-based, rational message. So on the issue of gun rights, they would show them a picture of someone breaking in and saying, this is really your insurance policy. And for someone that is closed and agreeable, those are people that value family habits and tradition. They would show them a completely different message and a picture that really resonates with them. So what they wanted to achieve, for them to vote one way, or if they're not gonna vote the way they want them to just stay out of the ballot box. And we know what the results were in the end. After this talk, Alexander actually said that this is coming. They're going to publish this for commercial advertising. So we might as well be looking at the future of digital. Thank you.